Hey guys, it's Ira, August 27th, Tuesday. Or Wednesday. Sorry. I think it's Wednesday. Anyway. Another day in the books. Kind of the usual thing this morning. We got one of the crows at the breakfast at the park a lot closer than ever. There's one particular crow that is more brave, I guess, that comes up sooner and comes up closer. Most of the crows take a lot longer to get up close enough to get food, and only one other one gets fairly close, one or two maybe, but there's one main one. And it's kind of funny. This morning we were just doing our breakfast and turned around, and it was like boom, he was just there on the grill, the little permanent grill there next to the shelter, just looking at us. We didn't even hear him show up. So we thought I started moving. I had the idea to get him to go closer. I'd put a little piece of food out on the table next to us, far away from us, and then I'd go back to my table, he'd come get it, and then I'd put it on that same table but closer to us, and I keep kind of doing that. And then ultimately I figured the closer it was to us, the better the treat or reward, should be. So I put, like, we had meat and English muffins and coffee and butter. And so I put all three of those together. I dipped the English muffin in the coffee, got butter on it, and put a piece of the meat. And I put it like right on it's like a picnic table type table on the bench on the opposite side of our actual table. And he actually flew right up to it, but didn't quite have the courage to land right there. And that was pretty cool. He got really close. And then after we stepped away at the end to clean up and stuff, he came and got it. So he might come. We'll see. He's a lot more brave than the others, or whatever you want to call it. So tomorrow maybe he'll come right up while we're there. And before we leave, maybe he'll like be sitting on our shoulder. Probably not. That would be cool. Went to the library, went and parked at the satellite lot, and then got on the free bus, and then went to the library. We're just getting more used to our routine. And unfortunately, Nikki's laptop wouldn't connect to the Wi-Fi there, like an unsecured University of Wyoming Wi-Fi. And she did some research, and it had been connecting, but she did an Windows update, and now this is happening. And she did some research and found out that it's happening to like everybody with Windows 11, I think it is, or a lot of people at least. And and there's like no solution. Well, she did find one guy that had like 12 different things to try, and I guess most people were saying, oh yeah, it worked on number 3 or whatever, but it didn't work for her. And I guess that the last ditch effort is to uninstall and reinstall Windows. And if that doesn't work, we're thinking we go back to Sam's and be like, give me my money back, because this is brand new and not very cheap laptop that I can't really use, because she uses it for Canva and she needs internet, and we're only ever on, we could use the phone as a hotspot, but that we don't have that much data on our plan. So the thing's kind of useless if we can't get on these Wi-Fis. So that was frustrating. And it's like, it's an update. Like, imagine if there were updates to your car, which I think that's a thing that may already be happening, like software updates on cars or subscriptions to certain features on cars that can be remotely shut off or something. Imagine if your car just stopped working and it's like, oh, just a glitch. It's like people wouldn't settle for that. Why do we settle for so much of this garbage with technology? It's a big problem. I know I've touched on some of it before, but what surprises me the most out of it, and has surprised me for years, is the people that defend the technology as if it's a loved one or a friend or something, and they don't want to hear any critiques of the software or the technology, and even in the face of legitimate complaints, it's almost like a blind faith type of thing, like technologyism or something, or computerism. Like it's just there's a lot of people that just won't hear it. They're like, no, we're better off. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can understand all the ways we're better off, but there's certain things that just are a hassle, that are less convenient and less functional than they used to be, and we're more advanced. So it's just, I don't understand it. Why we not only tolerate it, but a lot of people will defend it. So I don't know what that is. I'll have to write on that more later. I was doing reading while she was working on that, and she was shooting. I tried to help, but she wanted to do it herself. So she's pretty independent, and she's smart, and so I just went ahead and did my work, and I read some different stuff, like I've been trying to do while we have this library resource. Try to pick some different things. I picked a Human Ecology Review. That's a journal that is published every so often. It was issue 2, 2024. That was the one they had on the most current shelf, so I guess that's the most current one for some reason, not a 25 one. But it was interesting. Are you okay?
Uh-huh.
What? I thought I heard something.
No,
So it was just kind of this big, scholarly study, and it's like they were basically saying that, like, if people accept a movement, the values of a movement, and believe that valued objects in question are threatened, and in this case environmental objects, they use the word object, and believe that their personal actions can help restore those values, then there is an individual predisposition to provide support for the movement, and that this support is distinct from committed activism, which to me, I don't know what they meant by committed activism. It sounded maybe more like zealots kind of thing, or something, like kind of a blind faith type group or something. So I kind of felt like it was like, so what? Because yeah, if you value something that you believe is threatened and you can do something about it, then you're more likely to do something about it. It's kind of like, okay. And I don't know what their point was, other than trying to maybe motivate people to be more effective, trying to figure out how to be more effective at motivating people to be green, or whatever you want to call it. But there was about some other titles in the journal that it just kind of felt like the publication might be a bit agendicized. like understand the shared logics of oppression, like logics of oppression. I've just never even heard that wording. Nature, connectedness, race, and subjective well-being, and environmental justice. I'm not saying it's all invalid, but it's like, it sounds a bit ideological or something. Like, are you really just about ecology, or I don't know. And then another book was The Wisdom of the Middle Ages. I did some studying of church history about a year ago, and it was interesting to study the Middle Ages. It basically just covered everything from the New Testament to current day, and so that was interesting to go through all that. But I thought the Middle Ages were interesting because all that ever stuck in my mind from school was kind of, the Dark Ages, not good. But the author was basically trying to show how the writers of the medieval period were indeed great, and that we should not neglect reading them, and that their thinking has a lot to offer even for our lives today. He listed some notable authors from the Middle Ages: St. Augustine, St. Aquinas, Dante, and Chaucer. So I've read, when I was in Western Civ, I read some of them. I think maybe all of them, actually. I don't know if we read Dante. But I have read that because as a kid we had that. I didn't read through the whole thing, but I'm slightly familiar with it. I've read bits of it off and on through my life. But I didn't know whose Middle Ages. So I wanted to read more of that, but I wanted to try to get out a blog too, so I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I switched focus to the blog. But hopefully I can find that book again, because at the end of every day you're supposed to go put it on this shelf or leave it on a table for it to be, or on a cart, or leave it on the table for it to be reshelved. And a lot of times they'll take it, but it takes them, they haven't reshelved it by the time you're back. So I don't know if I'll be able to get that one again, but that one looked pretty cool. So I wrote the blog after that, which I published on a new platform, Blogger, which I didn't know existed, which is basically a Google platform like Google Docs, Gmail and stuff. Blogger is one of theirs. And I figured I'd try that because it's specifically oriented to blogs. I actually found it when I was researching, trying to find other blogs to read. And when I go on there, I don't see how to read other blogs. Actually, I only see how to post, which is weird. Which I must be missing something obvious. I didn't look too hard, but I saw how to post my own blog. And so my blog has been on Google Sites, and I've been sharing that URL. And then today I shared the Blogger URL, which is this big, hairy, nasty thing. And it's a bit frustrating because I can't seem to just share a hyperlinked link to the blog when I put it on a reel, or on TikTok, or on a short on YouTube. So I'm guessing maybe I have to make a post, or I can type the URL, or paste the URL in and then hit enter, and it would probably activate the hyperlink. But I feel like people nowadays aren't going to look down at the description in a post. Well, on Facebook you can post just words. I guess I don't know on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok if you can just, TikTok just all pictures and videos, I think. And then YouTube, the post wants you to put pictures, but maybe if I just didn't put pictures in and typed, it would just put what I typed. And then Instagram post, I'm drawing a blank on what that's like to do. But Facebook, I guess I could type. I'm pretty sure. And then, anyway, maybe I'll do that. And then people wouldn't have to like go to the trouble to try to type it in or copy and paste it. The Instagram stories, you can put the actual link in, and that's also for the Facebook story too. So I wrote that blog about it's titled "The Serendipity of Libraries." It's interesting, and I don't want to give too much away, so you'll want to go read it. But I thought it was pretty cool. It was inspired by an article I read. I did. Let's see. I went and did some door dashing. Well, we left the library and had lunch. We had the Taco Bell cheesy bean and rice burritos again, but I got diarrhea. So, and Nikki dropped me off back at the library so I could stay close to a bathroom for a while, because when I have that, it's just kind of a it takes some time. I don't know how to say it. And I usually take Imodium, or like the equivalent of that, and that's very effective. That's completely effective for me. But I don't like the fact that it makes me irregular after for a while, even for days. So that's not healthy, and I've just been trying to take magnesium. Maybe part of it was I maybe upped my magnesium dose too quickly. So I skipped my magnesium tonight, and I'm going to try to ease back into it. But it was funny because, how the phones listen to us. And I was saying the Taco Bell might have given me diarrhea. And then, like, on Instagram, there was a post. It was a picture of a hat with stitching on it, and it said something to the effect of, people that get diarrhea from Taco Bell are weak, and their line will be soon forgotten. So, I don't know what to say. I guess I'm weak. So, but it might have been the magnesium. But then I was there like a few hours, and then she kept dashing, and I worked on my next blog. And then she came back and picked me up, and we kept door dashing. I was thinking of writing on the Cracker Barrel branding controversy. I know they changed it back, but there's some interesting topics nested in there. There was this guy, a comedian, I guess you call him, on Instagram. He made a kind of funny post about Cracker Barrel that kind of hinted at it being racist, and I was surprised to see people in the comments, people of color, being like, yeah, that's good, they changed their brand, but when are they going to change the rest of the problem, or kind of thing? And I don't know. I don't want to go too much into it here, but I just never saw it as a racist thing, but maybe I need to think twice. And no one was explicitly calling it racist, but people sure were almost saying that. And I know I've been going to Cracker Barrel since I was a kid in the 80s, and I regularly would see people of color there. And my dad lived in the South, as in the 30s and 40s, actually, he lived there for a short time. His family moved around a lot. I don't know if it was in the early 40s or late 30s, but there was segregation. It was in Mississippi, in this particular place, and he was friends with African American kids, and he got kind of persecuted for it. But he remembered he'd go to the movies and sit in the balcony with his black friends, and he'd visit, go to their houses for dinner and things like that. And it was just really extremely poverty stricken. You could slat walls. You could just see outside from the inside type of thing. And but it seemed to me, that you have this Southern culture, and that the African Americans culture comes out of the South, the American South, because, and I'm not saying they didn't carry any culture from their tribes in Africa over, but in large part it's influenced African American, specifically, culture is born out of the American South, for better or for worse. I'm not saying it was right how it was done, but some of these things, like Southern culture, is intimately connected to African American culture, and like it's like kind of a sub category of it, and but there is crossover. So that's something I've been thinking about and kind of trying to be intellectually honest about. I had made a comment on that comedian's post, and I said, like, yeah, I've never seen that it was racist, like because people were saying like the cracker was the guy on the sign. And I don't know how much of it they were just joking. Obviously, people were joking, but I think some of them may have actually believed that the word cracker was referring to white people, and that the guy in the sign was not the cracker is the cracker barrel is the barrel in the picture, and that the barrels that they have outside and inside the store, because the crackers used to be delivered in barrels to protect them from getting crushed. And then people would sit around these empty barrels once they were used outside of like a general store in a small town America, downtown, or in the South at least, and they would play checkers on them, or just kind of like the water cooler type effect. And so the guy started the restaurant, as I understand it, in 1969, and wanted it to be kind of this gathering place, all the rocking chairs, the cracker barrels that people would hang out around. And so in 69 was after segregation laws were over, and I know I've seen a number of African American people in Cracker Barrels at numerous times. We used to eat there every week in Kansas City, and more than once a week often, and there was almost always African American people there, and we've eaten at them around the country too. And so I got some comments. People were like, one guy just said I was straight up lying, and I'm not sure which part of what I said he said was a lie, and another guy just told me I better sit it out, and they were both black people, so I just deleted it because it wasn't worth any hassle to me. I honestly didn't think I'd get hate for it, because they were kind of joking about Cracker Barrel being racist, like that it wasn't really, kind of thing, but apparently a lot of people think it is. And so it was just raise some interesting topics, and I might try to write on that. And I'm not saying it isn't racist. I'm kind of thinking more, it's like maybe I could see how people might see it that way and stuff. But and after that, we DoorDashed more. Oh yeah, and when she dropped me off, I did some more reading. It was just on this book called English Vocabulary Today. I didn't get very far into that. It talked about English being Germanic language, and how, like, England was basically just overran multiple times by multiple people. I learned that when I was studying church history, the Church of England in particular. That poor country was so ravaged repeatedly, and the native English people were all basically fled to the west, and they're what we call the Welsh now. And then in the north, like Cornwall, I think it is. I don't fully understand where or what that group is called. And then the Scots. I think some of the Scots were considered a native British. And so Anglo-Saxon comes from the people that invaded them, that term. And they each spoke a Germanic language. So I think the language that this guy was saying that the people originally spoke was Celtic. And so then the Anglo-Saxons came in and spoke and brought in basically what we call Old English was developed. And if you ever read any old English, you won't know what on earth they're saying. Even if you read Shakespearean stuff, it's like good luck. But so that was kind of interesting to read a little bit about that. And then the Normans took over from Normandy, and they spoke French. And French is descended from Latin. So a lot of French got brought into English, and so English is arguably influenced heavily by Latin because through French. I got it dawned on me the other day before I even read this, like the word journal. The first part, J-O-U-R, I believe, is the French word for day. And that makes sense. A journal is like a daily thing. So anyway, that kind of explained that. That was kind of interesting, like that I thought of that and then read it. Yeah, it was because French did influence. I knew that Latin had influenced it, but I always assumed it was through the Catholic Church and not the Norman invasion, which I think maybe the Normans may have been more responsible for establishing the Roman version of Christianity there. But anyway, I don't remember. And then later there was a Renaissance that caused interest in classical and Greek, in the classical Greek and Roman world. So more Latin was brought in, and even some Greek was imported into English. So English is like a really unique language, is basically, I think, kind of what he was pointing out. And it's really influenced the world more than any other language, because when you include all the native English speakers that are all over because of British colonization, and then this people that learn it as a secondary language, it's just insanely influential. And I've heard somewhere, this wasn't what I read here, but that English has like way more words than any other language. I just heard a cow.
Really?
Is that your phone?
No.
There's probably a semi-truck with cows in it. But anyway, I'm to the end of my notes, and it's almost 30 minutes. This is my longest vlog yet. I guess I'm getting more loquacious. I'm having more and more things I'm thinking and talking about. It's like kind of like my brain is coming to life more or something. I don't know. I feel bad for having talked so long, but I guess you don't have to watch this if you don't want to. And I have a lot to say. So, and I have a ton of blog ideas, and still planning on doing music. And these cows are going nuts. And yeah, and so don't forget about that. I'll probably even put some of my music lessons in my blog or in articles, like in a how-to or kind of, thing, because that's a thing nowadays. A big deal is in online articles is how-tos or listicles. So I might do some more a different style of writing like that occasionally. What else? I'm into running, getting back into running. Today was a off day running, but I tried to do a little bit of strength and conditioning while I was out and about, like single leg squats and stuff. But that is the deal. We're still planning on moving to Kansas City soon and getting that all figured out. And yeah, so a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff still gonna happen, and a lot of ideas. And so I'm at 5 seconds from 30 minutes. So I guess I'll stop here. And if you watch to the end, congratulations. You're one of the tough ones. All right. Thank you. See you tomorrow.